Test one, two, test one, two.
In a nutshell, what's this about?
Yeah, happy to help however I can.
Morning, everybody. Chairman Cowser is still over in, where'd you say, non-Judith, what's that?
Judy non.
House Judy. Anyway, the house moves at extraordinary speed. And so we're going to open up, get this thing started here, regulated industries meeting here. We're going to start with Representative Anderson. If you'll come forth, you'll sit up here. Be easy for you. Yeah, come up here, number 2 there. And we're going to start with House Bill 1027, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, my friend. We appreciate all the House members moving these Senate bills. We want y'all to keep on moving them.
Only move the good ones.
Only the good ones.
Thank you. And we're working on moving those. We got about 4 of them on in my committee tomorrow. So good ones, good ones. Today I'm presenting again House Bill 1027. I just received a little bit ago the substitute to present from LC 474302S. This is starts out as the bill that we discussed last week. Basically taking the allowable contract time period for MEAG and MEAG participants to contract with their customers from up to 10 years to up to 20 years. And as we discussed last week, that allows them to be more competitive in the marketplace for larger.
That was the only
customers.
change last week, though, the 10-year to the 20-year, right?
That is correct. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. There's been a couple of additions or changes in the committee sub. Let me find where this starts.
One them out line by line, if you don't mind.
Yes, sir. Okay. We will go down to on lines 25 through 30, and I'll just read the sale of electric power, which is validated by Superior Court pursuant to Code Section 46-3-131 as to its reasonableness and enforceability. That was in the original bill, but then we've added now, including specific contract terms requiring the cost of any new power generation required to service a specific customer to be paid by such customer and provided. Further, that such contract shall not result in such customer paying a rate less than that charged to retail customers.
Was that just to make sure that we had all large loads customers paying all their cost up front, correct?
I would assume so. That was that last portion was an amendment made as a committee sub. So I would assume based on the wording of that, Mr. Chairman, that is the case. And then that same terminology was used in lines 63 through 68. And the reason we have 2 different sections addressing this is MEAG is 49 members, 48 of which are municipalities. So we have to cover that in the code related to municipals. And then there is one county, Crisp County, that is a member of MEAG. So we did have to cover that in the county section also.
Crisp County, for those that don't know, weren't here, it doesn't fall under customer choice. There's some agreement was made.
That is correct.
Back in the
At
twilight
time
day.
The territorial act was put in place.
Right.
Right.
That
Yes.
only county does not fall under the customer choice area for Georgia Power over, was it 9 megs, whatever it is?
900 kW
900
connected,
kW,
just under a megawatt. Yeah.
Right.
So that's section 1 and section 2 of the bill. The committee sub also adds a section 3, which inserts a new paragraph in, let's see, which would be 7.1A.
84.
And starting on line 84, as used in this paragraph, the term large load customer means customers with an expected total peak demand of 100 megawatts or greater at one or more premises located on one tract or contiguous tracts of land. And then B, each contract between the authority of those political subdivisions which have contracted with the authority for the purchase of electric power or energy and a large load customer for the provisions of electric service entered into on or after the effective date of this act shall include terms and conditions designed to protect residential and retail electricity customers from costs associated with serving the new load the new large load customer, including but not limited to. And then there's, looks like 4 items listed here. One, minimum billing requirements designed to recover incremental costs associated with serving and preparing to serve a large load customer. 2, a contract term that may exceed the length of the applicable service tariff. 3, performance and credit provisions designed to protect retail customers in the event of contract default. And 4, termination provisions designed to protect retail customers in the event of termination of the contract for electric service. And then there's 2 other subparagraphs added here. C, no such contract shall authorize the large load customer to pay a rate that is below the rate paid by retail customers of the political subdivision which have contracted with the large load customer for the purchase of electric power or energy. And then D, the authority and those political subdivisions which have contracted with the authority for the purchase of electric power or energy shall be authorized to enter into contracts with a large load customer whereby such large load customer agrees to pay at the beginning of such contract all costs associated with creating or establishing more electric generation capacity for such customer. So those are that section is the additional section in the committee sub.
And reiterate to us, if you don't mind, that all these fall under the same auspices as Georgia Power, that if the more generation, the more money is made, the more it can push back to the residential customer, more drop in their rates.
Well, and that is true. I do have a little concern about the way this is set up, and I'll just mention that. And of course, I defer to the wisdom of the committee on all these. First of all, it does place some restrictions on MEAG that don't exist for Georgia Power Company related to the rate structure. First of all, there's a term used in here.
What are you at?
Okay, well, looking at, that's what I was getting at right here. The, in lines 101 and 100 and 101, no such contract shall authorize a large load customer to pay a rate that is below the rate paid by retail customers. And I will ask, unfortunately, I didn't get this in time to really do this research myself. Do we have a definition of retail customers? Because, the electric utility treats different classifications of customers differently. You have residential retail, you have commercial retail, you have industrial retail, and the rate structures with average costs there vary.
How does that differ from Georgia Power? The language in there.
Right.
What number you?
I think I can help.
Senator Brad?
You got me. So yeah, it looks like we've incorporated, is this your sub, Representative Anderson?
No.
Who's bringing this sub?
The other chairman.
The chairman?
It would be,
The chairman?
Calvin, I would assume so.
The
correct?
other chairman. The coup is underway.
Yeah, go.
All right. So it looks like we've incorporated language from what came out of Senate Bill 34, which got incorporated into SB 410, but there is 2 new paragraphs, which would be C and D. Those are not, and quite honestly, I feel like that kind of splits the baby on the whole debate we had between Senate Bill 34 on using the ratepayer language versus the contract language. And we're using the contract language, but yet we are adding in, some clarity around really the intent, which we put into 410, if y'all remember. So I do kind of like it, and probably that should be incorporated into 410 or one of the other bills that's moving on the overall data center stuff. So I like it. So is that not true?
The gentleman knows of what he speaks.
Start again.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Said the Representative Anderson, let me see if I got this right. And I've spent my entire career in the utility business. I've done water, sewer, gas, electric, all of them. You got 2 customers. You got, okay, when we talk about, and I don't know what the definition of retail customer is, but let's just say we got you as a homeowner and you're a retail customer. You go home, you turn on your lights, you're running your heat and air, you're doing things like that. You're total electric. But your power consumption, if you looked at it on a graph, would go up and down and up and down and up and down. And we look at somebody that one of these large load, AKA a data center, and their load is pretty flat, runs the same all the time. Do you think it would be advisable that for those customers that are up and down, up and down, up and down, we're going to sell this large power user power at the exact same rate that we're going to sell to the homeowner or to any other retail customer that, commercial, that's up and down, up and down, up and down, or nice even load? Because generators, I don't care what size generator, they all put out the same amount of power all the time. And so which one do you think would be more efficient to serve and more cost effective to serve?
But just based on the scenario you're given, a levelized load typically is the most economical load to serve, because you don't have to plan for the spiking contingencies that you do with other loads.
No. I don't know on the amendments that are on the bill, the changes to the bill since we last heard it, but did you make these amendments, or were they
sir, I
put in by somebody else?
It's my understanding that this is a committee substitute that came from the committee or the chairman.
Okay. Well, it scares me that I guarantee you there's in the utility business, you're looking for a nice, even, steady flow. I don't care whether you're selling water, you're selling gas, you're selling electricity, whatever the case may be. And that's where, to me, I want to make sure that we don't hinder MEAG in being competitive to what's going on in there. Because we are a customer choice state. And that's one of the great things about it is we do get to decide everywhere except for Crisp County. Mr. Chairman said that we have options on who's going to be your power supplier, and I want to make sure that it's a fair competition. So,
and I appreciate your concerns, and I share that concern, and that's the reason I point out that on a very basic level, without a definition of rate paid by retail customers, understanding what is that? Is that an average aggregate rate? Is that a rate based on certain times of the year? Because a lot of these rate structures vary between winter and summer. Is this talking about retail? Is this talking about commercial, industrial rate structures, which are all different and all have different averages? Without understanding what that is, it would be hard to really assess the impact this would have on MEAG from a competitive standpoint, not to mention the fact that retail rates have a capital construction component in addition to incremental costs built into them. And the terminology and the phrase that's used in the amendments on this bill requires that be taken care of up front by the customer. So, while we don't want these large loads to have negative impacts on the state and on our ratepayers and customers, we also have to provide a competitive environment for the Georgia businesses that are put in place through the Territorial Act to compete for those loads.
One other question, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, go ahead.
When I read this, the intent was to allow MEAG to go from a 10-year contract to where they can amortize the cost if they have to do generation and transmission over a longer period of time and get that payback for their customers and the thing there of the original bill, I believe, that you brought to us. Is that not correct?
That is correct, yes.
And the way that I read this, and maybe I'm hadn't had a chance to study it because this is new for both me and you, but when I look at it, this would apply to even contracts that are under 10 years. This would be one of those scenarios that, for me, when I look at it, this could hinder them in even shorter term contracts where they have serving a large load. And that would be this would be, instead of an asset for MEAG, this would be a detriment to MEAG and making them competitive in the electric utility. And that's one of the great things about Georgia is because we have that competition, everybody wins. The competition makes us all stronger. Is that not correct?
I believe that the gentleman's correct, yes.
Thank you.
Just wish we had
Would this not be if you have a level, as Senator again was talking about, if you have a level power bill and you owed more money at the end of the year, wouldn't it be a true up thing at that point in time? with the large load customer, would they true up if they owed more or less, which would not create that graft he's talking about?
Well, I think what you're describing is what the industry terms as a levelized billing structure,
Uh-huh.
which is utilized in residential customers,
Right.
typically very smaller loads.
Oh,
I'm not aware of a rate structure, and of course, the gentleman behind me can answer that question more directly for customers of this scale.
Mr. Fuller, you want to come up? You want anything on one? I know this is you and me, Ag, there, and put you on witness number one here. Just tell us who you are, tell us who you're with, just for the record. Pull your mic close to you if you don't mind.
Sure. My name is James Fuller. I'm President and CEO of MEAG Power.
All right, sir.
I think we talked last week a little bit when we presented to the committee that
Just pull that microphone up here.
Sure.
Soft spoken, you might fit up. There you go.
we have an interest in supplying some of these large loads, and we're trying to set up a facility where each city that's a member of MEAG, if they have a large load customer, could come and participate, and their customers would kind of on a reverse RFP have the ability to bid in. And so we just saw this language this morning, and to point it to the retail rates of the sponsoring utility, because MEAG can't sell retail, it doesn't level the playing field. Each city has different retail rates that they set at their local level, and it would preclude some of our cities to be able to be a competitive bidder. And the way MEAG looks at it, if we build a facility and invest in the infrastructure, there's a certain cost to that. And if we collect more from the ultimate large load customer through the municipal utility, that margin will go to the benefit of all the cities that contribute electricity. And if we set a target that's at a retail level, even though we're making a margin above cost, it will preclude some people to be able to participate in bringing large loads to their cities. And it would be to the detriment of the whole MEAG system. And it would put us at a competitive disadvantage versus the other utilities on the wholesale basis in the state.
Could you elaborate a little bit more on, like, for example, you're talking about large load customers and money up front they might pay out, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. How would would that put you at a disadvantage that you all could not basically serve the large load customers? Is that what I'm understanding basically?
Well, if we were to issue debt and we want to amortize the debt over the period of the contract with the large load customer, right now, if we were to issue debt beyond 10 years without this change in the law, we'd be exposed on the back end of the debt service. If the large load customers left the state or closed their business, that would be on the backs of our municipal utilities. And they pledge not just the revenue streams of the utility, but the geo-taxing power of their communities. And so we didn't want to go out and issue debt where there was a possibility, if the counterparty, the large load, vacated the transaction or went out of business, that we would basically put a burden on the taxpayers in our community. So we want to match the debt up with the power contract with a large load customer so that we don't have the risk. And we mentioned last week of doing it on a non-recourse basis where the investors in the bonds that we would issue would look through MEAG, look through our participants, and go to the credit of the large load customer. And so if the large load customer didn't pay, it wouldn't fall on the burden of our cities or MEAG Power. And we're very risk adverse. These large loads are very sizable, and we wouldn't normally go out and have a customer that is 100 megawatts or 200. I think the biggest one on the system that we have right now is about 70 megawatts. And so it's a whole different risk parameter, and we're trying to balance the contractual arrangements with our ability to collect the debt service from the large load and not expose our underlying cities. And, you know, to put this last amendment on, it makes it very difficult to give all the cities the option to participate if they've got a large load customer, because they may be precluded. We have 49 cities. They all set their own rates and they're all at different levels. So it's problematic for us.
Okay, I'm gonna recognize Senator again before I ask that question. Make sure I understand this. If a data center, we'll use them for example, since they're a large load customer, a 500 megawatt data center, and this scenario under this thing would put you at a disadvantage. You couldn't serve that customer.
Depending on the city and where their retail rates were, in some situations, if it's a requirement that we collect money from the data center above the retail rate, they will be precluded. Some may have lower retail rates and they may be able to compete under this, but the way we were looking at it is it's the cost of production. We would make sure that they were responsible for paying the cost and a markup over that, but it wasn't a markup over retail rates. It was a markup over our cost to provide the energy on a wholesale basis.
Senator again.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Representative Anderson, if we looked at the bill itself, and I want to make sure, because at some point I want to get this to a motion, but if we look at the bill on lines, end of line 24, we struck or, and then we struck 25 through 30, the three there, the same language would apply on line 62 and then 63 through 68. And then the reference on the last page of line 100, that section C, 100 through 102. I think what that would do would allow this to go forward as a 20-year contract. It doesn't put a parameter or something that says that they can't sell less than a retail customer, but they can sell something that makes, they have to make a profit. They have to make sure that they can recoup all of the investment and the things that the ratepayers would be on the hook for. There's a guarantee. The courts have to rule on it. Said they, and would allow them to be competitive, just like any other electric utility in the state. And they can do what makes sense, that makes sense for their customers and that MEAG city. Is that not, am I looking at the changes that need to be made in the bill to make it where it does allow them to do a 20-year contract, make sure they're competitive and make sure that the courts have a say in allowing for them to have that, I'll say protection if there was a large load customer that went out, they can put those things in there. Does that look like about right?
Well, just to look at what you just said, if I understood you properly there, if we strike the or on 24 and then strike out lines 25 through 30, what that does is that eliminates adding retail customers to the 20-year exception and would basically restrict MEAG as they are currently to only a maximum of 10-year contracts.
Well, how would you want to word that?
The original language would have left that portion, left the or in 24, and I'm just kind of going from memory here, left 25 and 26 up to the word enforceability with a period there.
So. Yeah.
Okay. And so you would be striking from including specific contract requirements and through the end of that line 30.
In the premise that you gave, yes, sir.
Okay. So
And then that would apply also in the section 2 area with the corresponding terminology.
okay. And then when you get to the last page on line 100, what would you do on that section C? Just strike section C.
Well, in the premise that you gave, Yes, sir. And section C is the part that I see as being particularly problematic because we do not have a definition of rate paid by retail customers.
Let me finish.
And even with a definition, if you know.
Mr. Fuller, do you want your attorney to come up there with you? I was going to invite you up, sir, and I'm sorry.
Just to follow up with what Mr. Fuller said, the original intent of this was that once that investment is dealt with either upfront or contractually, then the initial investment, then the customer would be treated like other customers are, ensuring that they cover the cost of providing the service plus the margin for the municipality.
Okay. Happy to because this is, first we've seen of the substitute, and, I want to make sure that everybody has, competition. And if this is taking MEAG out of competition, it means that the other two suppliers, the EMCs and Georgia Power, would then, it'd be less competitive for all the other utilities. And that's important that we have competition in the,
Sir Dozal wants to go. Sir Dozal?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman, or the other chairman, as you.
The boss is bad.
How would you feel about this if what Senator Ginn is proposing, if we actually did what Senator Brass talked about, which is inserting this language into 410? And so then you would have more of a level playing field in terms of the competitive landscape, where it wouldn't only apply to MEAGs, but it would apply to everyone else. And I think that for the purposes of discussion, we can probably get to a pretty easy definition of retail customer, which is the published rates for anyone other than those that are getting a special break through a contractual negotiation. And we may need to spell that out in a sub, but just for our purposes here, I think we could probably agree to that being at least a definition for our purposes. And I'm wondering if this isn't a good public policy that should apply to the EMCs and Georgia Power, like Senator Ginn was just mentioning, that would not put the MEAGs at a competitive disadvantage. What's your read on that?
I agree that 410 would be a more appropriate, because it's a more tailored and specific addressment there. So I think that would be a more acceptable venue to entertain that. Yes, sir.
Does 410 apply to the MEAGs though?
I'll be honest with you, I don't have a copy of it in front of me to look and make sure.
I don't believe that it does. And so I think what Chairman Brass was getting to is maybe we revisit the C and D language and maybe make it apply everywhere.
Senator Ginn, you're recognized.
And I'm not sure if you can help me out, Senator Dozal, on 410, that's another bill that you're talking about.
Yeah, it had all of this language, but stopped at C.
Right.
So it had-
And so here's the net effect of that. And you help me, Representative Anderson. Georgia, we compete all across the country for data centers. They're huge investment when they come in. I don't want to see our ratepayers in Georgia, residential customers, commercial, industrial customers, hurt by bringing any kind of data center into Georgia. I want to make sure that we're competitive. The problem that if you put that language into any bill that puts a disadvantage, that puts handcuffs on all of the electric suppliers in Georgia and makes us where we can't compete across the country and across the globe. And for me, my concern is that when you do that, you've just tied up and will not have any more large load customers come into Georgia, because you've hindered the ability for the utility purpose, a nice large level load that uses plenty of power, for us to be competitive in that regard. And am I correct, Representative Anderson? You know a little bit about the electric utility business as well, or any other utility business. But I think we would be hindering all of our electric utilities, and we would cease to have that ability.
Well, I do think that addressing the specifics and the concerns around this one segment of customers that we term as data centers, that sort of thing, should be treated separately from other industries. We look at the industries that have located, in more contemporary basis, the Hyundai plant, the the other large customers that have located in Georgia, where not only is reliability and capacity a concern, but there is also more of an economic concern in those. And I'm afraid that by just classifying this based on size of connected load, we're going to basically take, at least in this wording, MEAG completely out of the picture when it comes to being able to compete and potentially acquire loads of that size.
Senator Brass, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and welcome back.
Thank
We
you.
missed you. Although the vice chairman did a great job. So I'm assuming y'all have kind of modeled out what this would look like on, as far as rates go, or at least have an idea. What, and let's say retail customer, let's, I guess, drill that down to say residential retail customer. What is the average rate per kilowatt hour across Georgia for MEAGs? Just a ballpark. And then next question is, what are you thinking the large load rate would be?
I would defer to,
Again, just ballpark. It doesn't have to be.
yes.
You know, we've got 49 cities, and the retail rates probably range from a low of 10 to probably a high of 16 on the residential. We've got commercial rates that are in excess of that. I think the data center loads from the discussions that we've had about the marketplace might range from 9 cents a kilowatt hour to 10.5. So if you put this provision in here, it's going to preclude MEAG from being able to contract beyond 10 years. So we don't match up the debt service on the facilities we build with the obligation to pay, and we expose our municipals after the 10 years to the debt service if the customer were to leave the state. So it is problematic that if you're pointing to a retail rate for us to be competitive and really have a product that the data centers would be interested in, it would preclude some of our cities that have high rates. If they were courted by a large customer, it would make it very difficult for them to make a profit on it.
Okay, and a follow-up, Mr.
Right.
Chairman, is that, when you say that 9 to 10.5 cents, is that in there, like, don't some MEAGs have like a base rate and then a separate rate? Is that like a separate retail rate? Is that accurate? Do I understand that correctly?
Like MEAG sells to the cities at cost, the debt service, the fuel costs, and the O&M. So we supply a wholesale rate, and then each community sets their retail rates to recover their distribution costs and any other margins that they want to make. So it's different for every city. The cost of production from MEAG, depending on the city participating in the project that we build, that's all transparent and the same rate if they sign up for output of say a new generation facility.
Okay. And I guess to Senator Dolezal's point, if it were even across the board, and forget us being competitive with other states, if it were even, if C and D applied to the co-ops, applied to Georgia Power, at that point, would you be able to compete within our state? I like I said, forget we wouldn't be able to compete with other states, but would that wouldn't be an even playing field?
Well, if you're going to point to the retail rates, we've got 49 different retail rates. Some of them would be precluded because they couldn't supply a product at a cost that was above their retail
Okay,
rate.
I got you. Okay, thank you.
Other questions from committee members? Anybody else signed up on this bill?
No, sir.
We're gonna hold action until we sort through some of this. We will be having another meeting on Thursday. And if y'all would just hold tight here for a while, we may be able to have a little break this morning and come back. So I don't want to do something on the fly that has unintended consequences. Unfortunately, I was presenting the bill down in a House committee and I haven't thoroughly reviewed this committee sub or discussed it with you guys before here. My vice chairman was a little bit more ambitious than I would have been. I might have had another bill first until we had some time to sort this out, but I'm glad everybody's heard the testimony. It is all well intended, but I do think we need to be careful that we don't put you at a competitive disadvantage. And I'm hearing pieces here that we may have sort of helped solve the puzzle, the concerns that the public has and might be able to, and maybe this should apply to all competitors because of our system. Thank y'all for being here, Representative. If you'll hold tight, I'll just leave us your cell phone. I'll be in touch with you whenever we take a break. Okay?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, now I'm gonna shift the order slightly. We're gonna call House Bill 187, Representative Montmahan. This is basically a commandeering of Representative Washburn's original bill with his consent and permission. And after you guys have talked to me, it seems like something worthy of us hearing. I
Thank you,
need
Mr.
you,
Chairman.
you got to remember this committee's cold dead on this. We have no idea
Oh,
what
okay.
this is.
Well,
Your bill was, I don't even know if it passed the House.
it did, passed out of House Committee, went to Rules and stayed there for a while.
So it did
Yeah,
not pass
It
the House.
hunkered down.
Okay.
Yeah, it hunkered
And-
down.
And it has not been assigned to this committee, although it is a subject matter that ordinarily would be.
I think that's correct,
And I
you know.
would love for you to explain the whole idea of a vehicle value protection agreement, why you need a bill to do it and what your bill does. Fire away.
Okay.
All right.
Well, thank you,
No.
Mr. Chairman, members of the
Thank you.
committee. This is
House
House
Bill
Bill
187.
187. And I think the LC that's been given to me here is LC 56066-8S. And as you said, Mr. Chairman, I am not Representative Dale Washburn. I'm Representative Mark Montmahan, though we have similar styles and habits. I am definitely a different person. Let's talk about House Bill 504. House Bill 504 would allow VVPAs, these are Vehicle Value Protection Agreements, to be available to Georgia consumers, like many of our neighboring states. A VVPA helps a consumer protect the equity that they have in a vehicle in the event of a sudden or unexpected loss of value or use of the vehicle. So you can imagine this would be more for a vehicle that somebody's buying in cash, right? And they want to protect the equity. The flip side of that would be something like if I went to a bank today or a traditional financial institution and I wanted to get a loan on a vehicle, you can purchase gap insurance today. Well, that protects really the lender from the gap in between the vehicle's value and the loan balance, if that makes sense. So there would not be a negative balance there and the consumer will not owe that. So instead of protecting the lender, these agreements actually protect the consumer themselves. So let's talk about that and let's talk about what kind of the operability here. So 504 regulates, of course, vehicle value protection products, which are optional. These are never required. Nobody can make this a part of the premise of a sale. It requires clear consumer disclosures, guarantees a 30-day cancellation window, and requires real financial backing so that claims get paid. You know, you can't just stand this thing up and be a nobody. You got to have the proper resources to back up and financial power to do so. And it gives Office of Consumer Protection's enforcement power. All right, we'll keep moving. I know that this is the first time y'all heard of this. So number one, this defines vehicle value protection agreements, and it formally defines the products in law. We're going to kind of get into the weeds here. Y'all stop me if you have questions. I'm happy to do it that way if you'd like to. A vehicle value protection agreement is a contract where the provider agrees after an adverse event
to give a benefit that can be applied to the cash value, trade-in, financing, or purchase of a replacement vehicle. It explicitly includes vehicle trade-in agreements, diminished value agreements, cash down, payment protection, depreciation benefit agreements. It requires a clear disclosure to consumers. Each agreement must clearly disclose provider and administrator contact info, charges, the eligibility requirements therein, claim procedures, cancellation rights, and refund methods. And the first page must state, you may cancel this agreement at any time before the end of the free look period, which is a 30-day period. Also, the buyer must be given access to the contract. And a car loan or purchase cannot be conditioned on the buying of these contracts. So, for example, if I go there and I want to optionally purchase one of these products, they can't say, well, I can give you this square deal here, but you need to buy this agreement. That's not part of the deal. Again, number 3, a mandatory 30-day free look cancellation. So that's a 30 days to cancel for a refund. Number 4, rules of the provider cancels. If the company cancels, they must give notice, refund unearned fees, and can charge up to $75 administrative fee. Financial solvency requirements. A provider cannot sell these agreements unless it either backs them with an insurance policy from a licensed insurer meeting minimal capital requirements or maintains a funded reserve equal to at least 40% of the collected fees, plus a trust security deposit with the insurance commissioner, or has at least $100 million net worth. Of course, the enforcement goes to the Office of Consumer Protections. So let's talk about why this is important to Georgia consumers. Right now, they can't have them. And so oftentimes I buy fleet vehicles for even my business. Because I don't use a financial institution that would normally give a vehicle loan, we do it as packages of vehicles for fleets. My financial institution just doesn't have anything to offer me on something like this. And so as a consumer in that situation, I could go to a third party and purchase these agreements for that package of vehicles. And those would protect my equity, as a lot of times we're cash heavy in those procurements. So that's the bill. I know y'all are going to have some questions, and I'm happy to stand for those. And we also have somebody, I think, there, Travis. My eyes are getting bad on me. Travis is here to answer some questions as well, and I appreciate y'all's flexibility in letting us do that.
So fill me in on, so what's the difference in just getting automobile coverage that would cover you for comprehensive loss if we're talking about theft or a wreck or something that destroys the value of your vehicle?
Yeah, so sometimes I think, and we saw this especially during like COVID, where the price of these vehicles may exceed the value at a later point in time, but you've put equity in that vehicle. So this protects the equity that the consumer actually put into the vehicle.
So when you drive off the lot and the value of the vehicle drops 20% and you ended up paying more than 80% of the cost.
You got that right. That's right. So insurance legally, provides up to the cost of the vehicle.
I'm going to recognize Senator Albers first, and then you'll be next, Chairman Brass.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Always good to see my friend Representative Momdahan.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
What
Yes,
other
please.
states are doing this currently?
Ooh, good question. I think that's probably a Travis question. Do y'all want him to buzz in now? Or do y'all want to wait?
We're going to wait.
Okay.
We're going to question you first, and he's
Yes, sir.
the only witness signed up.
Yeah, I would wait.
Can you-
I would, he's probably going to have that answer for you.
If you don't have an answer to us, just tell us. Maybe that's why you couldn't get out of the house.
Well, that's true. I wish he
I'm
was here
pulling
with
your
me.
leg.
I wish he was here with me, but fortunately his schedule wouldn't allow it.
I guess my question is maybe you can help
Yeah.
either alleviate our concerns or address it is, we've had significant increases in insurance premiums that I think we've all been talking about. Of course, tort reform was passed, et cetera. This seems like yet another layer of insurance. To me, it's kind of a known entity that, you buy a new car, you're taking that depreciation, the minute you drive it off the lot. That's why we all have insurance, and we can have different deductibles and different reasons for how we scale it today. Why would we want to add yet one more building block on that?
Well, I think this is more about, and this is my opinion, I think this is more about the level of comfort that a consumer has in losing the value of their equity, right? So for example, I'll just give you a personal example, though that's not the impetus of the bill, but I'll give you a personal example. I have a 2023 Toyota Corolla. Now, as many of y'all know, we do driver services, we have a fleet, and so we keep these cars on the road. Now, that car was purchased at, I think, probably mid-20s, high 20s, once taxes and everything was done on it. That car just got totaled. Despite our best efforts of keeping these cars in shape, that happens from time to time. That vehicle, 260,000 miles, is worth about $9,000 today in just a short period of time. Now, we paid cash for those vehicles. If I were to have a vehicle value protection agreement, that would have protected the equity that I would have put in there in and above what the insurance would have paid out. And that's what, if a consumer wants to be comfortable with the amount of cash they put in a vehicle, they can protect their interests with these agreements. But let me remind the committee, these are only optional. These aren't a mandated product, and they cannot be used as a condition of a sale.
Gonna do one final
Go
question,
right
Mr.
ahead.
Chairman. This helps. I appreciate you getting us there. I guess my concern is that the person that might not understand that might be taking advantage of this to some degree as well. How are we going to protect the consumer, even though it is optional? But, you know, as I used to tease some of my friends who own car dealerships in this building, so was the undercarriage protection plan that seemed to always get added.
That's right. So if you'll see on lines 39 through 62 in the bill, we've added a lot of consumer protections here. These are the disclosures that are required. So you'll see what they must, on line 42, vehicle value protection must conspicuously disclose the name, address, and contact information of the provider, and administrator, if any, the consumer, the terms of benefit eligibility requirements. But number C, I think this was, if I recall, it's been a while since I presented, but the conditions imposed by the vehicle value protection agreement coding, but not limited to any requirement the consumer return to the dealer where the vehicle was purchased to obtain the benefit, if applicable. Such terms shall only be enforceable if agreed separately on a signed form laying out such condition. So they're having to not only disclose that this is an optional service, that this is what this would do for you in the event that you lose your equity, especially they're coming in under self-interest because they're likely putting down a lot of cash in this deal. And so these will be offered to people who have a large equity stake in a vehicle. They're, i.e., I sold something, or I sold some equipment and now I want to go buy a truck with it. So I'm gonna put cash in it. So so not only do you have the disclosure on the front end, but on the back end, you also have a 30-day free look period. So you go purchase this, you get home, you talk to your spouse, and they say, well, that was an idiot move. You only put $500 down. John, what were you thinking? Well, now you get a 30-day look back period, which you'd be afforded a full refund. So long as you didn't use the benefit, right? So if you wreck the car within 30 days and use the benefit, of course, you wouldn't be eligible for a refund. But as long as you don't use the benefit, you get that free 30-day look back period.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Brass, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I just want to make sure I understand the overall bill. So you're saying if you pay cash for a vehicle, you can't purchase gap insurance.
Well, so GAP would protect the amount of the loan versus the value of the vehicle. This doesn't, GAP insurance does not protect the equity that a consumer has in the vehicle. So,
Well, it protects the equity for the bank
For the
or the
bank.
loan.
that's
Yeah,
right.
okay.
That's right. That's
So
right.
you're doing this for the cash and then naming it something else.
Yeah.
And then is there anything currently that prevents a company from doing this, providing this service?
Yeah, we would have to put in statute for them to be able to do this today. That's right. So today they're prohibited to do it because this is not in law today.
But is there anything that prevents from doing it?
My understanding is that they need the bill to be able to sell these products. That's
Okay.
right.
And then-
They're regulated in such a way that they would have to.
And
have
you've
this.
got your consumer protections built in here, I see.
Yes, sir.
And is there anything in these consumer protections that would preclude a competitor of, say, one of these companies doing this?
That would preclude.
I mean, is this a
yeah,
vendor bill that's going to help one company and rule out others?
No, there's
is my
a lot
question.
of different. So
Because
most,
I see that a lot around here. And I
most
just want to make
companies that
sure
sell-
that's not what we're doing.
yeah, thank you. Look, I think most of the companies that sell gap insurance today also sell these products in other states. As to the total number of states, I think that was Chairman Albert's question. he'll be able to tell you the number of states that are doing it, but it is multiple states. So that's Travis. He's online. He'll answer some questions here in a moment, but there's multiple states that are
Well,
sending it.
Travis is the one I want to make sure we're not helping him and hurting others.
So, yeah, please, absolutely. talk
No
to him.
offense to Travis.
But there are several companies that sell these products. It's not just one or something like that.
Okay.
It's these companies that, if you imagine they have certain agreements with financial institutions like credit unions or a big part of this, I think, financial ecosystem here. A lot of credit unions in other states sell these products.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Senator Williams, be recognized next, then Senator Ginn, then you, Senator Summers.
Thank you. This is not gonna get us started on telephone calls like trying to buy the extended warranty on our cars, is it?
No, sir. No, that's totally different.
All right.
This has nothing to do with a extended warranty per se, because it really doesn't have anything to do with protecting the mechanical operability of the vehicle. This is only about the equity that you own in that vehicle and protecting that value, after an adverse event.
Thank you.
Senator Ginn?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me ask you, if I get back to 60,000 feet, I called, I was on the phone yesterday with my insurance company. Somebody hit me and I had a vehicle replacement. And my insurance company asked me, said, hey, would you like to buy gap coverage insurance? That I just drop a name, that was USAA.
Mhm.
And they said, yeah, and I said, well, what is that? And they told me a little bit about what it is. So back up and tell me from a 60,000 foot level, what it is that we're doing again, because I'm still not sure
Yeah.
that, if I know insurance companies can already do this, then what is this bill actually doing that can't be done today?
Right. So backing up that far, the premise is largely the same with one caveat. That is, gap insurance today protects financial institutions from having a consumer who's holding the bag with the difference between the amount of the loan and the value of the vehicle. So if you were to wreck that vehicle and there's, let's say, a $4,000 difference between the value of the vehicle and what was outstanding on that loan. So let's say somebody goes and gets a 6 or 7 year loan, right? There may be outstanding loans, right, that are above and beyond what the value of the actual vehicle is. So we saw a lot of trucks getting sold, especially during COVID, right? That they had 15, 20,000 miles and they were selling for 15 or 20,000 more than MSRP because they just weren't being produced. Well, that value is on the books for the credit union. Okay. And with gap insurance, if I still owe 60,000, but the vehicle's only worth 40,000, then that makes the credit union or the bank whole. So that's what gap insurance really does on this side. On the other side, right, at the 60,000 foot view, this does the same, but for the consumer themselves, right? So this allows them to protect the equity if they were to pay cash, and ultimately, if the consumer was the one who's left holding the bag, while maybe a consumer doesn't hold financial statements and reports in their hand, they know I paid 60,000, for this vehicle. It's only worth 40,000 today when I got the insurance back on it. So they're left with a discrepancy of almost $20,000. One agreement like this would protect that value.
If I might, Mr. Chairman. So
Sure.
I use my homeowners as an example. I have what they call full replacement cost insurance on my home. Doesn't matter what it costs to my insurance company's on the hook to rebuild it. So it sounds like this gap coverage is basically full replacement cost on a vehicle. Is that not correct?
And I will tell you, as somebody who's trying to get full replacement coverage on my home, don't ever get rid of that policy. Those are hard to get today. So this is a little different because you're dealing with something that loses value. A home is something that appreciates value.
Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Well, I've seen, 2008, hey, whoop, there they went.
Right.
Said they, but my question is, and I'm concerned in an automobile that typically these things do depreciate.
Correct.
Said the more miles you're putting on them, the more wear and tear, those kind of things, age.
Sure.
But what would be gap coverage on a car? Because you know, if the car costs you $60,000 in your example, and now it's worth $40,000. Okay, that's because you drove it. It's got time and the things there. So is this $20,000 of coverage to get you back to full retail price?
No, so it's depending on the VAT. So
I borrowed $60,000. I went to out there and I said, hey, now the car's totaled and and the insurance company only wants to pay me $40,000. And the gap coverage, is that the difference between what the insurance company wants to pay for your car?
well, Senator, I mean, if you took out a loan on the vehicle, then that would be gap coverage.
Okay, so I borrowed $60,000 in your example,
So that's permissible today.
and
That's gap
and it's
coverage.
only worth 40 when the insurance company totaled it.
So under gap coverage, then the lender would be made whole because you took out a loan.
And that could be, let's just say that I made two payments and it's now $58,000. So that $18,000 of coverage is going to be paid as gap coverage. So that's paid to a third party. One of the things that to me, I'm almost worried that gap coverage for an individual, for a lot of people, they could say, well, I want to sell my car tomorrow. Let me find a tree. Is there a problem? Is that a potential of what could happen with this? Is that, we have a lot of insurance fraud as it is. And, I need $58,000. I'm going to take my car and I'm going to find a tree.
Well, I think there's two parties to the deal. So I think largely what you talked about is gap insurance, which is covered today. I think the premise of the other conversation is if two people willingly enter into a contract to protect, a company wants to protect the value and the consumer wants to protect their value, they enter into that conversation willingly. What I would tell you is, as to the fraud that happens today in these agreements, you'll have to ask Travis that. He probably has a better context of the fraud that either is happening, has happened, and how they protect themselves from that fraud in this industry. I'm not an expert.
They tell me that the life insurance world is you got to die to collect, and most people aren't ready to do that. But somebody else can collect, and unfortunately, we see a lot of claims that are made from people that are responsible for murder. And I'm just kind of curious, in this gap coverage, are we setting somebody up to giving them incentive that could turn around and see a lot of fraud or potential fraud?
And thank you for that. I think that in almost every industry we find fraud. If you have, an amendment, of course, to memorialize how we can prevent that from happening, I would say that the providers would want to prevent fraud as much as you do, Senator. That you're on their side, and so we appreciate that perspective. If that's something that you like to memorialize, that we can figure out how to prevent fraud on these companies, I'm always for that. Thank you.
Senator Summers, you're recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Lynn, totally new to this. I mean, this is, I got a flyer sheet on this morning. I'm trying to figure out where we are and what we're doing. This is a one-time cost. Make sure we understand, one time. In other words, they paid up front one time.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Does it apply to all vehicles?
Does it apply to, I would say this applies to any vehicle that you'd go to purchase. I think
What about semi-truck? What about
that you'll have to add. So my understanding, these are consumer vehicles that.
that is a consumer vehicle?
Well, you'd have to, I would think like your normal non-CDL type trucks. Now, they may cover those. I'll leave that question to Travis. I just simply don't know the answer to that question.
Let's use, for example, a 350 Ford farm truck. I mean, since it's used for, and it does get bent up, beat up, and chewed up. I'm just throwing this out at you. I saw where Senator again was going regard with his find a tree statement.
Sure.
And it concerns me that is out there. And then also, do you have an average cost? I mean, you may have said that somewhere in the brain. I'm reading this thing here. I mean, let's just say your Toyota Corolla that you spoke about a while ago,
Yes.
mid-20s.
Yeah.
What would it cost you to engage in this kind of contract up front?
My understanding is they're less than, $500-600, but we'll let Travis answer the question on the types of vehicles and both the cost. I think that would be edification for everybody here to give more exact numbers. anything that I gave you to be based on memory of what we've talked about in my study. And I can tell you it took me many years to get through college. It probably wouldn't be worth much.
All right, let's go a little deeper then. Let's go to what Senator Williams spoke about regarding warranties, et cetera. Well, when you get real old, you'll always have somebody calling you to visit with you to say your car warranty. You know what I'm saying? You'll never be lonely. So here we are. Let's just say you take the car and let's just say your transmission goes out or your engine goes out of the car and your car is worth $5,000. It's going to cost you $8,000 to get it running again. Why would you not, how would you be able to just to junk that car and then pick up the additional coverage that this may allow and not be caught in quote, unquote fraud, or this company say, no, you got to repair your car before we can pay that. I mean, there's going to be a lot of, I'm with you. I mean, I'm get me there.
Yeah, look, I think there could be certainly a lot of edge cases where folks are interacting in that manner. I don't think that that's the large majority. I think if the industry was that rife with fraud, then I don't know that, these folks would want to be able to sell these products in the state of Georgia, right? I think there's a good trade-off for protecting consumer value and also having a good financial ecosystem for these folks to sell it. As for the, amount of fraud that's happening, again, I'll refer you back to what I've told to Senator Albers and Senator again. We'll wait for the expert testimony on the folks who actually operate these things every day. And they'll be able to give you the details that I think that you're looking for, but then that'll be a healthy discussion.
One more question, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
But, okay, it's not mandatory, obviously, and you can cancel, you said, in the first 30 days.
Yes, sir.
The question I have for you is if something like this were to come available, and I don't want to get caught in a trap,
Yeah.
but I want mortgage companies, nefarious mortgage companies, or in general, mortgage companies, to then all of a sudden say, well, we want you to have this, require you to have this because of the difference it could cost them of getting theirs. So can you get me there?
Yes, I can. So with this here, with this here, it cannot be a condition of the sale, period.
I
mean,
got you.
That's written in the bill. I will just ask something to, I think the previous question, it in multiple parts, but one of the parts is this going to be like one of these home warranties where you're dialing people in the middle of the night and doing, hey, can you, do you want to talk about your car's extended warranty? I think that's the meme of 2025. That is not applicable here because you've paid for it once. It operates as a product that goes during the tenure which you own that vehicle. So that wouldn't be applicable here because we're not talking about a transmission or the operability of the vehicle. But
No, I'm just talking about the difference of what the value would be worth if you had to replace all that. And obviously it would be worth replacing that vehicle. So you'd be able to pick up money. Would you be able to pick up money with this GAP program? I guess is what I'm saying.
I think that's something that Travis will be able to answer to you in more detail.
Oh. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you purchase this and you have this in your system, is the $500 you mentioned, I'm not holding you down here, is that for all vehicles, or would it say the vehicle costs $100,000, it costs you $2,000? I'm just using that. Is there a scale there?
I would imagine that it's not a flat fee, but you'd have to, again, as I think, get whose question that was on the value of the vehicles and how much these things cost. They're happy to answer that question.
There's got to be an actuary somewhere.
I'm sure there is. Yes, sir. That's right. I don't know the details on the cost.
Who is this
specific.
person you're talking about?
This is Travis. I think he's with the association.
If y'all through asking questions to the author, we'll let Travis speak. Any other questions? All right, Travis Moore, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
All right, we can hear you great. If you would introduce yourself and give us your thoughts about this bill.
All right. Thank you so much, Chair.
You know it's House Bill 504, but it's now, it's changed a little bit during the process. Same language, but it's House Bill 187 at this time.
Yes. So thank you, Chair. Thank you for the opportunity to testify in support of House Bill 187. My name is Travis Moore. I'm General Counsel for the Guaranteed Asset Protection Alliance, or the GAP Alliance. We represent the nation's leading vehicle financial protection product providers. Our mission is to preserve the viability of our industry and promote fair and equitable regulations. As a trade, we prefer statutory clarity and consumer protection to legal gray areas, and we develop model legislation that reflects that. In fact, Georgia adopted GAAP as model legislation on GAAP, guaranteed asset protection, more than a decade ago. Since that time, the trade has developed that model to encompass a wider grouping of vehicle financial protection products, which includes these vehicle value protection agreements, which Representative Monahan has been describing to you. House Bill 187 is the codification of that model language. Currently, Alabama, Colorado, Florida, Missouri, North Carolina, Ohio, Oklahoma, Texas, and Utah all have statutory frameworks for offering these types of vehicle value protection agreements, and we continue every year to expand upon that. Rather than go into details on these products, as I know Representative Monahan has done a nice job of describing the difference between traditional GAAP, which is fairly ubiquitous, and again, tied to the vehicle finance agreement and vehicle value protection agreements, which protect that down payment, that equity in the vehicle. I will hit on hopefully some of the questions that have been previously asked, and then obviously invite any additional questions. One of the topics that I believe came up was whether or not these products are available on commercial vehicles. Some companies do, in fact, write products for commercial vehicles. There are some differences in how they structure those, and pricing might be different. But this legislation would allow for that and apply to those commercial contracts as well as consumer contracts. On the question of cost, there is a range of costs, and this is also very similar. GAAP is similar in this way, in that it's not an individually underwritten product that looks at the individual consumer purchasing it, but there is somewhat of a complex matrix that involves, the original purchase price of the vehicle, the type of vehicle, et cetera. So it factors in a number of different items about the vehicle in order to determine the exact cost associated with that product. So it can range. So in some instances, it could be as low as $400 or $500. It could go up to, $1,000 or $2,000 on a higher end premium vehicle. That's roughly your ballpark. Again, it very much depends on the vehicle, as well as exactly how those benefits are tailored. The other issue that I heard come up was one of fraud. And frankly, this isn't something that I've heard come up a lot in this space from our member companies dealing with fraud. I would like to think it's not a huge problem. We certainly don't mean to incentivize fraud through these products. I think one thing that I would call out about the legislation and the way these products function is that they're not intended to be purely a cash in the pocket benefit. It does protect that down payment that you place, but the way that these products are structured are really a credit towards a replacement vehicle. So you may, to some degree, incentivize someone who wants a new car, but it's not like you're incentivizing like health insurance or life insurance, where someone's trying to collect a large sum of money just to sort of take the money and run, for lack of a better term. So I don't know if that's a completely addresses the issue of fraud. Again, certainly don't intend to incentivize or support it, but what we do want to do is offer consumers an opportunity to protect that down payment. And again, this is either a cash purchase, or oftentimes it could just be a consumer who likes to maybe put 50% down. I'm one of those people who doesn't want to be upside down on my loan. If I was, I'd purchase gap coverage. If I'm not, then I have this option of a vehicle protection product that would protect that significant amount of money that I placed as a down payment. Because I think we all know, as these products roll off the lot, as vehicles roll off the lot, they depreciate rather rapidly, not just because of mileage. I think the last question that I hopefully will be able to address, which I think is probably something everyone is always curious, why do we need this? What are we trying to do? Can these products be offered today? Why can't they be offered today? Well, that really ties back to where I started with why our trade association approaches this through model legislation. Without this model act, without a clear statutory framework, there is some uncertainty around what these products are and how they may or may not be offered to consumers. We've had in different states over the years opinions on whether or not this product, actually typically determining that this product is not insurance, but it looks enough like it. It has a relationship to insurance that, barring clear statutory guidance and framework establishing these rules of the road for the products, our member companies are certainly apprehensive and frankly will not offer these products in states that have not passed this type of statutory framework. And so that is what we're here to do, to expand upon state law to ensure that these legitimate, good, reputable companies can offer these valuable products to consumers, and ensure that anyone else who wants to get into this market has a set of rules that they have to follow that protect consumers. And so that we don't have a little bit of that gray area where someone might say, it's not an insurance product, I'm just going to offer it, but not following any set of rules. So that's what we're here to do, is hopefully pass model legislation to protect consumers and enable a healthy market. With that, I'll stop and take any questions you might have.
Is there any way this helps members of your organization against companies that are not members?
No, not in any way that I'm aware of or that isn't pro-consumer. I mean, and what I mean by that is that really our member companies reflect the vast majority of vehicle financial protection product providers. That includes GAP providers. These are the companies with experience in offering voluntary protection products through dealers to consumers, who have existing relationships with the insurance companies who underwrite the backing insurance. And so to the extent you're getting a legitimate high value product into consumers' hands, this legislation enables that. If it harms anyone, it might harm a company who thinks they can get away with doing this without following the rules that the industry has agreed upon are best practices, again, to protect consumers and promote a healthy market.
Well, our very strong, powerful, influential rules chairman had a question earlier about what company this benefits. I'm just reading behind you. You represent the organization as a whole.
Correct.
So it's just the industry then that you want to give protections to, or clarity to what their obligations are and their ability to do this.
Yeah, exactly. We want a level playing field to increase competition, or that is a cornerstone of what we are trying to accomplish.
All right. Senator Brass, I'm going to let you follow up since you are the strong, powerful, influential.
I don't know
chairman.
about
It
all
has to
that,
get
but-
passed, and then Vice Chairman Summers.
Well, I just wanted to clarify that was in no way, those line of questions were in no way insinuating. I was just ensuring, because I do trust the author, and just wanted to make sure if I was going to make a motion of due pass, which I'm willing to do at the appropriate time, that I was not doing such to benefit one company.
Senator Summers, you're recognized for a question.
Mr. Travis, a couple of questions, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
You can't sell your product in Georgia right now? You can't like call from Timbuktu and sell somebody insurance they want to buy it? Like, or Gap?
So someone could, in theory, attempt to sell a product like this in Georgia. They risk running afoul without clear statutory framework of state insurance laws, because this is connected to an automobile and a potential adverse event to that automobile. Now, there are reasons why the quote unquote risk being covered being depreciation versus fortuitous event. There are distinguishing factors that make this not insurance, but barring a clear statement, either an opinion directly from the Department of Insurance or legislation, that is a legal gray area. And so I would say that my companies, our membership, are not willing to sell in Georgia without a clear statement that these products are not going to be treated as insurance. There's no risk that a dealer is now selling insurance without a license because a dealer is not willing to take on that risk. And so this is an opportunity to eliminate any gray area that might exist, to where, to your point, perhaps dare I say, fly-by-night type company who wants to create a website and then start selling in the state. That's what we don't want to see. We want to see legitimate sellers who know the industry, who have existing relationships with dealers, operating in a way that is consistent with consumer protections, consistent across the states, so you have a fair market across borders, and again, a product that is valuable to the consumer, and that is a product that is consistent with our model legislation.
My follow-up question then would be, you would be under the Insurance Department of Georgia. Is that basically what you're telling me? Now, if we create legislation?
This legislation puts it under the Department of Consumer Protection. This is very similar to a lot of the products in the ancillary voluntary protection product space around motor vehicles. When you think about service contracts are similar in this way, where some people think of them as being somewhat insurancy because, oh, my car broke down, I want it to be repaired. It sort of looks like an insurance event, except for breakdown is a known thing. We don't know when it's going to happen, but that risk is known because all cars eventually break down. And accordingly, the Department of Insurance and states nationwide have all agreed that a service contract is not insurance. This is very similar in that way, where it's sort of on that bubble between insurance, but depreciation is a known thing. We know cars are going to depreciate. This isn't about a fortuitous event that's going to occur. So there is, again, this is an opportunity to create clarity and clear parameters around what the products are while creating a regulatory framework. And again, these are consumer contracts at their core. And so this is regulated by the Consumer Protection Division of the Attorney General's office.
And last question, it would cover any vehicle that I asked Representative Monahan a while ago, or just cars?
So this one, let's see how they define. It's a relatively broad definition of vehicle. We don't have this tied to a state-specific definition. Some states narrow that, some have a broader. I think we tend to take a broader perspective on this, but basically any motor vehicle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, I see no further questions. What is the pleasure of the committee? Senator Brass?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to pass substitute by substitute.
All right, and that's
Whatever the bill
LC
number is.
60668S. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Got a second from Secretary Williams. Any further discussion or proposed amendments?
Where do I start?
All right, what's the pleasure of the committee? All in favor? Raise your hand.
No, I guess so.
5 in favor,
Questionable, and I'll be honest with you.
Thank you, Senator.
all opposed? We got 4 opposed. Excuse me?
Just because it's marked.
Well, thank you,
Yeah,
Senator.
we counted your vote
Appreciate
that way. So it passed. You're the deciding vote. Pass 5-4. It'll move on to rules.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
All right. Thank you.
Are you covering Frank's new car gap insurance?
Not me personally.
Sounds
All right, we're going to take a 5-minute break and then come back, and I'm going to present a committee sub on let's see what number it is. It was 34 originally, House Bill 34. We'll be back in 5 minutes. 34. I'm gonna present this and we're gonna take testimony. I'm not sure if we'll have time to act on it yet or not today because we're running a tight clock here. Last year, the Senate passed Senate Bill 254. I sponsored the bill and it was passed out of this committee. It later passed on the floor after being tightened up significantly from what had passed out of the committee. The gist of it was we were trying to limit the amount of THC in hemp products, and we limited the gummies to 10 milligrams of THC per gummy, and we limited the beverages to 5 milligrams per 12-ounce can. We also closed what they call the Delta 8 loophole. Delta 9 is the naturally appearing THC in the cannabis plant. But they have figured out ways to synthetically create Delta 8, Delta 10, Delta 11, and XO-THC that also are just equally intoxicating as the naturally occurring Delta 9. So this addressed the total THC, whichever compound it was. Later, the bill, after passing the Senate, was assigned to House Regulated Industries, and they have made several iterations of it. The one that actually passed is a bill that has nothing to do with THC, that it deals with COAM machines. And so they essentially stripped our hemp beverages or hemp products bill and made it a whole nother subject matter. So this is simply reconstituting our bill as it passed committee last year. I haven't looked up what the vote was in committee, but I have added a couple of provisions. One was in deference to the vice chairman, who had a separate bill that allowed the sale of hemp beverages in package stores as well as convenience stores or grocery stores. And that is on the page 11. It's just that one little paragraph C that says essentially liquor stores will be allowed to sell these hemp products or hemp beverages. The other change that I found to be important, and I think the minority leader might comprehend this having been a previous solicitor. If you look on page 7 at lines 162 to 165, it requires there to be a label on these products that consumption of these hemp-based THC beverages can impair your ability to operate a vehicle, and it can constitute driving under the influence of alcohol. There's two ways to be DUI in Georgia. One's DUI alcohol, the other's DUI drugs. Alcohol, we all know the 0.08 or above are the permitted levels. You can actually drink and drive. You just can't drink so much that you're impaired, and that's where we came up with the per se violation if you're 0.8 or above. On drugs, on the other hand, there's no particular concentration. So any amount of cocaine or amphetamines or other drugs that impair your ability to drive, including THC, are DUI drugs. And I felt like it's important for people that are consuming these beverages that are being legally sold to understand that that doesn't mean that you can drive a car after doing it. Just like it's legal to sell alcohol to somebody over 21, but you can't go drive drunk. And I wanted to put that on this. The final thing, which is kind of a twist that I don't know how any of these bills are going to end up being handled after November 1st, but in the big, beautiful bill, there is a ban that any product that has more than 0.4 milligrams of THC will be illegal to sell in the United States nationwide, which is essentially less than a tenth of what this bill provides. And it's, 1/25 of what the current Ag Department regulations allow, up to 10 milligrams. So it basically says no consumable hemp product shall be sold or otherwise distributed if it's in violation of federal law regarding the amount of THC in the hemp. that law goes into effect November 1st, so we may be just legislating for the next 6 months here anyway. Once that takes place, it would supersede any state laws, but I wanted to make clear that everybody was aware of that. So I want to allow any testimony. I see Angela Holland is here that has signed up. If you want to be heard, if you'll go to the podium, and then I'm happy to answer any questions, and we'll decide whether or not to move this or not.
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I am Angela Holland. I serve as the president of the Georgia Association of Convenience Stores, and we represent roughly a third of the convenience stores in the state. Our membership includes small multi-generational companies as well as larger corporations. In the convenience store industry, I am confident that my members ensure that adult age-gated products are delivered, stored, and sold sensitively and sensibly. My members know how to do this, and they do it very well. We successfully age-gate alcohol, lottery, and tobacco products. And we ensure that sales taxes are remitted. And when my members own the store and the wholesale operation, we successfully remit excise taxes. And we safely provide fuel and other combustible products to the market, and we fuel the public in every sense of the word. Upon quick review, we believe that this version has the effect of banning all consumable hemp products on the market. And while well-intentioned, we believe that a ban would actually serve to increase the dangers for Georgians, remove a robust growing part of the economy, and punish the good actors. Ultimately, we'd like to ask the Georgia legislature to continue their support of the Department of Agriculture and its efforts to robustly implement the regulatory framework that the legislature has only recently adopted. Changes take time, and they are doing an incredible job at moving this newly regulated industry into compliance. 13 months ago, the industry was completely unregulated. During the 24 legislative session, Commissioner Harper, Catherine Russell, and their team were successful in working with you all to create a robust framework for hemp products. Now, Justice Brandeis said in 1913, sunlight is said to be the best disinfectant, advocating that transparency is best for exposing wrongdoing. And you all, along with the department recognizing that, chose to bring the entire industry into the light by requiring everyone involved in the hemp industry, from growers to retailers, to be licensed. Knowing where these players are is critical to ensuring compliance with broader goals. You age restricted the products, you required retailers to post signage accordingly, required packaging to ensure products would not be attractive to children, QR codes, and strict ingredient labeling. You limited the amount of THC and created a thoughtful licensing structure, defined permitted and prohibited hemp products, created a required sample testing program, and additionally, you created a disposal process for non-compliant products. And most importantly, you created a program that department can enforce. After the enactment of Senate Bill 494, the Department of Agriculture worked diligently, stringently, and thoroughly to craft regulations that were necessary. And I want to thank the department for consistently attending events in an effort to share information on hemp, how to stay in compliance and follow the guidelines and the new laws. Not only have they instituted a new program, established rules and regs, and completed at least 1,100 compliance inspections in the last 12 months, they also created the best program in the country. Last year, I attended a national conference where a global convenience store member commented on stage in front of hundreds of people that Georgia has the most thorough regulations in the country. If we ban hemp in Georgia, I believe we run the risk of creating the era of prohibition. I think we would take these products out of the sunlight and put them back into the shadows and creating black markets. I believe we need to keep these regulations enforced to age gate these products, check for ingredients compliance, and to know where they are by requiring license to be held. While there is a federal ban pending, there are efforts afoot to delay that ban in order to create a more robust regulatory framework. But should that ban be delayed, and if Georgia has its own ban, it would most assuredly experience a flood of black market products. Currently, Indiana's 4th Congressional District Representative Jim Baird has drafted language that, if adopted, would push the implementation out for 2 years while this $28 billion hemp industry adjusts. And yes, it will adjust, but I don't believe it will go away. I believe that retailers who belong to the Georgia Association of Convenience Stores will stop selling hemp products. Meanwhile, bad actors will keep right on going. And if you don't take my word for it, Catherine Neal Harris, Victoria Jupp, and Lisa Pittman at Rice University's Baker Institute for Public Policy said, and I quote, "Prohibition would not succeed in eliminating the availability of these products or in protecting the public. Since no quality control exists for illegal drugs, placing hemp-derived cannabinoids in this category would exempt them from the very regulations needed to ensure their safety." They further reflect that prohibition would cause the most law-abiding hemp manufacturers and retailers, those who are more likely to follow stricter safety guidelines, to exit the market, leaving only less scrupulous actors to supply the demand for the products. Bans don't work. I believe they backfire. And without good regulations, these products could result in what we saw in the 1920s: increased organized crime funding, low public support, and tainted products in the hands of kids. But with good regulations, we know where these products are located, what's in them, and to whom they're sold. And like many of you, I have to go to church on Sunday and explain why I testified in public on the ability to continue to sell hemp. Well, it'll either be sold legally or illegally, and a legally regulated product, I believe, is a far safer option, and that is what we are advocating for. And I'd be glad to take any questions.
So you said that this would effectively eliminate the sale. You recognize this just takes it to 5 milligrams rather than the current Ag Department regulation that allows 10 milligrams, right?
In the hemp drinks, yes, sir. But I believe there's language on line 114 and 115 of page 5 that was very concerning to us. The total concentration of intoxicating cannabinoids means the concentration of all THC within a sample. So I don't know. I believe the department is more educated on how to answer that question, but I do believe that that could be problematic language.
That's to keep there from being Delta 8, Delta 10, Delta 11 in addition to the Delta 9, so that the total THC concentration is higher. So your industry wants to sell up to, 50 milligrams if it's these other synthetic forms, just not Delta 9? That's the only reason you would oppose this, if you wanted to be able to sell products that had Delta 8, Delta 10, Delta 11 in addition to Delta 9.
So I can tell you this for certain. The members of our organization were not selling hemp products until it was a regulated market. And once it became regulated and we had a structure of what we could sell, then they did begin selling what was regulated.
This isn't trying to stop you from selling, it's trying to impact the concentrations that you're allowed to sell. And you mentioned the federal law. With or without this bill, on November 1st, unless these people that are trying to postpone the implementation, you no longer going to be able to sell the hemp beverages, right?
All over the country,
Okay.
which means our bordering states as well, which is very important to us.
And does your industry oppose the competition from package stores? Is that part of your opposition to the bill? You don't think package stores should be able to sell something that convenience stores can? And they sell beer, they sell wine. Your people sell beer and wine. You just can't sell liquor. Now,
Right.
you have the advantage, you can sell THC products, but they can't. Is that part of your opposition? You don't want the competition from liquor stores?
I did not address that
Do you have a
in
problem? That's why I'm asking
my
you.
delivery.
Yeah. You got a problem with that provision?
No, we
Okay.
don't. No.
Senator again, you're recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Holland,
Yes.
the driver that's driving the semi that's coming into the convenience store and delivering product for the convenience store, everything from candy bars to bread to milk to whatever.
Yes, sir.
He has a commercial driver's license. He knows if he goes in there and consumes some alcohol, and gets above the legal limit, that he's putting himself and the company at jeopardy. I think most drivers, most owners of those trucks know that, hey, that's not allowed. We can't do it. But you're talking about selling a product in a store that quote would be legal, that puts every other driver on the road at risk for somebody being impaired. But even after the effect of that narcotic, I'll say, has worn off, and maybe that person is not under the influence technically, we have no way to know, like with alcohol, that this person's blood alcohol limit is safe. With this, once it's put in your bloodstream, it's there for up to 30 days, I understand. How do you explain to that driver that went in and used some of the product that he's delivering, and 2 weeks later, he's driving a truck, gets in an accident, and puts that company at risk? Because the litigious world that we live in, I'm worried about, that driver, has this in his bloodstream, and a good attorney looks at him and says, hey, he was impaired. So how do you defend that for the whether it be a driver of a convenience store, a petroleum distributor, said anything that these are 80,000 pound plus trucks, that are out here on the road, and I'm worried that it puts the public at great risk for that. And even if it didn't, it puts everybody at risk that buys insurance because of the fact that it doesn't leave your bloodstream, even though you may or may not be impaired. How do you deal with that?
Well, I believe most of those companies out there now are drug testing those drivers before they're going on the roads. Maybe not daily, but I know that a lot of my members already do a lot of that drug testing.
So they do that to protect their interest in the commercial driver's license. How about all the drivers that are out there driving automobiles doing the same exact thing? Is this not putting a lot more litigation for every driver on the road that, hey, you legally went out here and consumed this product that stays in your blood for a month? You may not be impaired, but how do you prove that you're not impaired at the time? I don't think there's a roadside test for the whether you're impaired or not for THC. Am I?
I guess that would be a question for our public safety folks. I'm not 100% whether there's a test for that or not.
And maybe somebody would testify, Mr. Chairman, from public safety.
Maybe. Senator Albers, you're recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Public
And this may be a
safety,
combination of questions from Senator again, yourself and the chairman. There is no roadside test for THC. Doesn't exist today. They can actually just check. There's a whole process for giving you roadside sobriety. They check your eyes, all the other movements. But Senator Ginn's absolutely right. It's in your bloodstream for 30 days. And this is the problem. We went down this path of legalizing drugs. Because with alcohol, when it's out of your system, it's out of your system. And this is the danger we keep creating when we keep going down and getting the nose into the camel's tent. But Mr. Chairman, I want to just get back to something you had mentioned, because on line 227, it says 10 milligrams of total THC per serving. Last year, I handed out a graphic to this committee that showed that 2.5 is actually equal to 1 beer or 1 glass of wine. In this case, 10 means 1 can would be basically equivalent to 4.
You're correct on the concentrations, but this is talking about the gummies of the hemp, consumable hemp products on the next page at the top. Line 231 specifically talks about the 5 milligrams per 12 fluid ounces. But you're accurate. That's twice as much as it takes to get you high.
Well, and I think that's why we should consider adjusting this to 2.5, because we have trained people over the last or for decades to say, hey, if you have two, you're okay. In this case, two means four, and you're not okay. And if we've ingrained that into people's minds for so long, I think we want to make sure we adjust that appropriately. And I do want to also just make a broad comment, if I could. California, of all states, have banned THC drinks. Liberal, off the left coast, down the cliff, California have banned these. That's how bad they are.
Other questions by committee members? Jones, you're.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just, if this bill does effectively ban, as you kind of went through it, can you kind of tell what impact it would have on the industry, as they've been relying more, I guess, selling these products?
I think if you create a ban in Georgia that is not a federal ban, I think that these products will continue to flow into the state in a black market and be unregulated. And I think to Senator Albert's point a few seconds ago of saying we've legalized these products, the hemp farming bill legalized these products in 2018. In 2024, Georgia chose to regulate them. And I think that's a huge differentiation, especially when you're talking about something that the Department of Ag took on for a couple of years and said, let's put parameters around these. Let's know where they are. Let's age gate them. Let's, know what's in them, put QR codes on them. Let's test them. And the fact that they have folks in the field that are making sure that's happening, I think is very important, because I don't believe that these products will go away. Even if they are banned right now, it's a $28 billion industry.
All right. What's the pleasure of the committee?
Yeah, ask a question,
Yeah,
please.
go right ahead. Senator Summers, you're
Where does it actually, tell me how you came up with the actual ban of the word ban of the product?
I think the language in lines 114 and 115, and that's more of a question for the Department of Ag, but I believe that will ban a lot of the products, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, just making sure.
You're
And-
saying a lot of them are exceeding the current 10 milligrams?
No, I
What's
believe
your
it,
aggregate?
I believe it's the way the information is already structured out there. And again, this is a question for the department, but I believe the way it's structured now, it only tests for maybe the Delta 9 that's in there. And maybe, again, that's a question for the department.
Under the agriculture department.
Yes, Catherine Russell will be best suited to answer that.
And a quick follow-up, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
And regarding what Chairman Alberts was just saying, and of course, I take issue with all of it. I just assume ban alcohol, ban everything, but I don't want to ban anything. I mean, I understand we have to have that. My issue is he'd probably say no to that, but banning alcohol, but I would say this right here. If you drop it down to 2.5, like he was discussing, my concern is, if you can give me this feedback, if you have it, you'd wind up drinking a lot more than you should to get that buzz or whatever it is you're looking for, and then you'd really be impaired. I'm assuming such. Is that something your industry discusses?
No, but I would assume that same theory would apply with alcohol,
The weaker it is, the more you drink?
probably.
Don't, same effect. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. What's the pleasure of the committee? Got a motion to pass from Senator Williams. Is there a second? Second by Senator Alberts. Any discussion or proposed amendments? All right, all in favor, raise your hand.
I'm not there yet.
All right, all opposed? Fails 5-4. I'm gonna vote to tie, and this will stay alive. We'll be discussing it again at our next meeting, full complement. We are adjourned. I think somebody else got the room.